right, we're back. Before the break, Don, we were talking about testimony in court. Guston said that he didn't actually write the HUD appeal, and Hinsberger, who was actually the director of Chicago HUD, gave false testimony at the trial.
Well, yes, but it was not. Guston didn't say he didn't write the opinion. Guston is sort of an invisible in this
Okay,
process.
so he's, yeah, that's what we want to clarify.
Hinsberger said that Guston didn't write it.
But he did.
Margarita Masonette, the director of the Enforcement Center, said he did. And if we had, the other interesting thing here is that HUD retained as work product or confidential a privilege log of 1,150 entries over 105 pages. There were 4 documents between Hinsberger of Chicago, the autonomous decision maker of HUD in Chicago, Margarita Masonette, Gregory Guston, and Veronica Coleman, and Howard Mayfield, the person who was writing the opinion, authoring the opinion in Washington, on May 1st and 2nd of 2002, that if we have access to those documents, it'll show very clearly what was done. And at the moment, we're left with the testimony of Masonette and another witness who said that Greg was the author.
It's known that they exist. Have the documents been secured?
They are secured.
Okay.
And Department of Justice should have them, actually.
All right.
Because periodically I say, why don't you just look at privilege log, page 87, documents dot 1, 2, 3, and 4, actually 1001, 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
And the Department of Justice, I guess, has represented that they have read them and that they are of no moment in this activity.
Okay, well, let's go on and explore a little further. This is really interesting, but we can't get into it in extensive detail here. Let's talk now about this HUD breach and the issuance. I want to go back to the issuance of vouchers to tenants, since that seemed to be a point that they were not sure about when they actually started issuing them. How was operations affected in the face of all of these things that were happening, or as they said, weren't happening?
Well, I think everybody agrees that people moved out of the building. And the question is whether they had vouchers or not. Now, these are people who were paying $100 a month in rent, about $800 a month.
All right.
I find it hard to believe that they would be going anywhere without a voucher, given their economics.
Right.
But
Okay.
HUD had a different
Good point.
opinion. But in any event, Hinsberger testified, or wrote that they were issued on October. Hinsberger wrote that they were a third issued on December, and Hinsberger wrote, Guston wrote for Hinsberger on March 2002 that almost all were issued. Well, okay, then Hinsberger trial says they weren't issued until June. So I said to the judge, why don't we actually go back and find out the documents? I didn't know that those were an issue particularly. And she said at that point, well, I don't want to spend time going back and discovering them. But all those records are available at SHAC when the vouchers are issued. When you issue a voucher, I give you a voucher that says you are entitled to use this to find rent, and we at HUD agree to pay an amount of rent as long as it's comparable rent and as long as it's a decent, safe, and sanitary building.
For the benefit of our viewers, can we not use acronyms? SHAC is?
SHAC is not an acronym. SHAC is SHAC, strangely enough.
What is it? Yeah.
Well, it's the voucher issuing agency for the Chicago Housing Authority.
Oh, okay.
But that's been a point of some confusion along the way.
Confusing.
But in any event, SHAC is the one that issued the vouchers to the residents, and SHAC has records of them because the residents have to prove that they were eligible for the voucher. They have to prove that they were not in violation of their lease terms to get it. And in any event, 256 vouchers were issued to the 300 residents at South Point, New Englewood Terrace by June of 2002. So all of that information is available, and not only that, but I went down to the building at New Englewood Terrace and found that there were 24 residents who were living at the building still who had vouchers issued or that period. But the judge and HUD wanted to move on without getting into the facts, but now that we're going back to the Court of Appeals or Federal Circuit for the Court of Federal Claims, that will be something we'll discover, and it'll be clear that these vouchers have been issued.
All right. So what was the actual effect? I mean, you know, you're...
Well, the effect was that we were 100% occupied in October, actually 3 vacancies, 99% occupied in October of 2002. By the end of December, we were 97% occupied. Only 7 additional people had moved out during the 3-month period. And then another 50 or 60 moved out by the end of March, and there were 200 or so who had moved out by the end of August, and we were at 30% occupancy at the end of the second year, when we would have been 99% occupied if the subsidy had continued.
So how were you paying your mortgage?
Well, we were robbing Peter to pay Paul, because we had $220,000 in monthly income in October. In October, the following October, we had $60,000.
Big difference.
There is a big difference. You're very good at math.
Yes,
and
I pride myself on that.
One of the casualties of the process was we couldn't pay our mortgage. So we went to the Community Investment Corporation. They told them that we were not going to be able to pay it. They said, well, we'll have to foreclose. And we say, we understand.
Okay, let's come back. It's getting good, isn't it? We'll be back.